Hello. Sorry about that. I had a couple of technical issues getting started. But welcome to today's webinar. Thank you very much for those of you who are able to join us. I'll just give it a minute or so. Let a few more people join. But today we're going to be talking about how you can supercharge your outbound sales performance with the help of MaxContact's platform. And whilst we wait for people, just a few housekeeping items. So the webinar is being recorded, so we'll share it afterwards via email if you need to drop off at any point. So please don't worry if you do. And we are taking questions as well. So we've got time at the end to go through any of those. So the Q&A box is open. So as Kayleigh is going through some of the items today, please feel free to use that. Okay, so we'll get started. So there's a mixture of people on today's call. So the people who are fairly new to MaxContact, we are the best cloud contact center platform for providing conversation outcomes and customer insights that help organizations generate revenue in a compliant way. So a lot of our clients use our platform across sales and debt collection, so really focused on generating revenue for teams and businesses. If you don't know me, I'm Kayleigh Tait and I'm head of marketing at MaxContact. Joined the organization about 3.5 years ago, have led marketing teams across various different industries, but mainly tech and broadband, working across B2B and B2C focused organizations and working really closely with revenue teams like sales teams to drive revenue in businesses. I'm joined today, thank you very much, by our member of our team, who is also called Kayleigh, so Kayleigh Mockler. She's been with MaxContact since 2018, so almost 6 years now, and has in this time become a real expert both in the contact center industry and getting to know different types of clients and the use cases, but also around our product as well. So Kayleigh is one of our trainers. She does favor a kinesthetic learning style, and she adapts her approach when telling our clients and teaching our clients and doing onboarding, so customer and employee training at MaxContact. So it's always really interesting. There's a lot to see, and yeah, we're looking forward to going through some of the key features with Kayleigh shortly. So we'll start just by framing the webinar today. So we started to talk about, well, actually, how as an organization can you drive outbound campaign performance? So if you have got a contact center platform or you use the MaxContact platform itself as well, there are certain things that perhaps that you could optimize that would help drive performance. So it might be how you handle data. It could be down to the specific use of the dial-in method that you're using for outbound calling, or it could be that you're underutilizing some customer touch points as well that also help drive outbound sales and debt collections. So we're going to touch on some of those. But we'll start by talking about the different dial-in modes. So Kayleigh, if you don't understand the different dial-in modes and how systems are set up, you could be hindering the reach for your outbound campaigns. Are you able to take us through how you can maximize reach, how you can increase the success of close rates through contact prioritization? And also, what are some of the advanced options to enhance revenue generation? So if we can start by talking about the different dial-in modes for maximum reach, that would be really great.
Absolutely.
Over to you.
Thanks, Kayleigh. Yeah, absolutely. So we can definitely cover all of our different dialing types, our advanced features that even push that a little bit further. So I'm just going to start off by sharing my screen for you guys, which kind of just get an okay that we can see that. Yeah, thanks, Kayleigh. Brill. So We're going to be covering pages that from the names that I've seen in our participants list. I have spoken to some of you before, so it's nice to see some recognisable names. We're going to start off in CTU, okay? We want to make sure that you're setting yourselves up for success from point 1, which is CTU, of course. So I'm pulling that up. I'm just going to get onto one of our campaigns and come down here on the right-hand side just to our dialing types, where we do have predictive, progressive, and preview. So the first thing I would say is understanding those 3 different dialing types, the kind of golden trio that I imagine a majority of us have used before or currently use right now. And we're making sure that you understand them so you can make the best choice for your business going forward, and how best to attack your leads and how best to interact with staff and even your clients as well, because they're what matters, and that's going to drive your revenue forward. So your first one is predictive. So if I just set that to predictive there we go. So predictive is, well, actually, first off, all 3 of these dialing types we're going to cover, predictive, progressive, and preview, are blended, is the first thing I want to say. So that means we can take both inbound and outbound traffic at the same time. There's no need to split them up or have 2 separate campaigns to do the same thing. We can just do on one. Okay, which makes things a lot easier. So yeah, they are blended, first things first. But predictive is the fastest outbound dialing option that we have, and it'll effectively call multiple leads per 1 staff member. So every agent gets multiple leads dialed for them. So if we click into there, we do have, along with that, a setting called degrade to progressive, okay? But what I want to look at is this user threshold. So with predictive, we do recommend a minimum of 6 users, so that's bums in seats, making a dial throughout an entire shift. So not that you've got 6 and half of them go on lunch at one point, come back, and the other half go. We have a consistent 6 at least through an entire shift. The more you have, the more effective time you're going to have. Any less than 6, you're not going to have a good time, as essentially when the system is dialing multiple leads per staff member, what it will do for the other calls that are answered, as it is a 1-to-3, 1-to-4 ratio, any other calls that are answered for that staff member, it's going to route them to other available agents at the time. So if you imagine you've got more people that it can give those calls away to, the better time you're going to have. Now with predictive, you do have the benefits of auto dialer. So it's going to dial your leads for you, as I've said before. But what that will also do is we can use things alongside of that, which leans into our advanced side, which is things like answer machine detection, for example. So if you don't want your staff members dealing with answering machines, we can use things like answer machine detection along with predictive. So that way we're freeing up man hours, you're freeing up your staff to interact with your customers, with your clients, and not having to deal with the answering machines. It'll also filter out things like busies, no answers, silent lines, stuff like that, leaving only the good stuff for your actual staff and manpower to deal with. But we do want to keep in mind that with predictive, you may run into dropped calls. Now, we are compliant with that. As you can see down here, we do have our drop rate. So if you wanted to avoid drops completely, we're going to look at the other 2 dialing methods. But just so everyone is aware, predictive, you can have drops on there, but we do our best to avoid that happening for you. One of them is the drop rate as well. So one way we do this is we have the setting called degrade to progressive, as you can see there, which has the user threshold on it. That's where we can see if there's less than 6 users, the campaign will auto switch to progressive. Okay, so you don't have to keep an eye on your drop rates. You don't have to keep an eye on agent numbers. The system will automatically take care of that for you. So it alleviates that stress and that worry, so you can focus your energies elsewhere. But essentially, if let's say a couple of people go on lunch and we're less than 6 people logged into that campaign dialing predictively, we want to keep you, your system, and your leads safe from being dropped. We want to avoid them, of course. So it'll switch to to progressive, and then it'll switch back for you. So when it's greater than 6, those people come back from lunch or whatever they were doing, it will automatically switch back and forth for you. So it acts as a safety net. It's your very first safety net when dialing to keep you nice, safe and secure. And then, of course, the last one would be preview dialing. So preview dialing, your staff will get a snapshot of who they're about to dial before the call has commenced. With predictive and progressive, it's the instant the call connects. So as soon as the call has connected, they then see the information either via the script or the left-hand side of the screen on the phone. Of course, if you have a script, they'll see it on there as well as soon as the call connects. With preview, they get time before the call to read who they're about to contact, get themselves prepped and ready, then make the phone call. Now, by default, that is 30 seconds. That's 30 seconds of prep time where they can read the information provided that you would give them from the input information that you've provided. And then they have a choice whether to dial or skip on to the next lead. Now, that time can be reduced or it can be increased. That is completely up to you. So they're the basic functionalities of the 3 dialing types, but I just want to talk a bit more, just a quick second, before we jump into the advanced side of things, of why we'd use these different dialing types. So you might be thinking, oh, well, I've got X amount of agents and I could use predictive. It might just not be the best choice for yourself. So you do have to think about what is the best choice for you and your business. So for example, predictive, like I say, it's very fast paced, it's very aggressive. So you've got to think of your agent size. Are your agents used to that kind of speed? Because they've got to be good with it as well. They've got to be prepared for it. But you are going to go through data very, very quickly. And like I say, it is auto dialing for you. So it will take some of that data away. So it won't be handled by a human being. The system will take care of it. With progressive, the same thing happens, but it's slightly slower in that it will only dial for the staff member when they are ready. So instead of the system predicting when they would be ready, the dialer only dials for them when your agent says so. It's when they hit that big ready button that I'm sure we've all seen at this point or another. So of course that would negate things like dropped calls, but again, you still get the benefits of auto dialing, okay? And then of course, preview a bit slower. So for example, just to give a use case, you might have, in the current climate, you might have a web form that is filled in that we're then getting hot leads from. Okay, maybe web leads that are then hot leads, and we want to action these one as quickly as possible, but we want to make sure we're touching each and every lead. We don't want to leave it up to the system to deal with it. I'd recommend preview. Okay, because that way you can guarantee every single lead has been touched by a staff member at some point, and answering machine messages can be left, things like that. Progressive is a good middleman. So this is where you might have a couple thousand leads. Some of them are old, some are new. You might have put the data in at the beginning of this month because you might dial month by month, depending on your list. So you want some agent behavior and a lot of touch points from agents for them to take their time. They dictate their speed themselves, and I forgot I was going to say them. They dictate the speed themselves, and we still get that benefit of auto dialer. Okay. So all that being said is just before we move off into our more advanced bits and pieces, is one little button here I just want to talk about, which is this little undroppable tick box here. It's quite unassuming, but it is very, very powerful and really does help if you are going to give predictive a chance. I really do think you should. If you haven't, give it a try. When it's good, it's great, and I think you'll have a great time with it, of course, where it is appropriate. But essentially, to combat the issue of having dropped calls, having this option checked, it will essentially initiate a different dialing algorithm, and it will ignore the number you've entered within your drop rate box and the dropped calls as close to 0 as possible while still dialing predictively. Okay, so you won't need to manually change your drop rate as you see it increase. You don't need to manually go in there and increase it. The undroppable tick box will take care of that for you whilst keeping you in the predictive dialing state as well. Okay, so again, that is just another safety net that MaxContact provides to make sure you are having the best time with predictive. Okay, great. So from there, I am just going to move gears over to a separate page, which again, I'm imagining the majority of us have seen before, which is in settings. We have our plans page. Now there's two plans that I'm going to bring forward for today. Of course, there's many more in there. The two that I want to bring forward are answer machine detection and our custom data fetching as well. So answer machine detection is the very first plan that you'll see here. So this is a plan that you can assign at list level. Now, if you don't know what I'm talking about, I'm just going to bring it up really quickly. So in management, we have the list page. And each list, for example, if I click on this one, we have the plans tab at list level. So we're talking about this one here where you can assign a plan if you choose to, and the answering machine plan down here. So each list could be a bit unique. Some could share a plan. Each plan could have a different one. It's completely up to you. But the answer machine detection, or AMD, which you'll hear be thrown about constantly, AMD, is if you want the system to detect answering machines, when do you want them to detect answering machines? On which types of phones? So, for example, we've got AMD off. That's where it does not detect answering machines on home, work, or mobile numbers. We want every answer machine going through to our staff because our staff leave customized voicemails, perhaps, at the end of every call, but we didn't get through to a client. You might say, well, I'm not too fussed about mobile numbers because I primarily call work or business lines. So if we do answer machine detection on mobile, I'll let the system take care of that. But I do want my staff communicating with the client's answer machine messages for home and work phones because that's what we primarily target. And it could be the opposite. Well, we don't primarily target home and work phones. Mobile phones is what we target the most. So I do want my staff interacting with the client's mobile phone answering machines. It's all completely customizable to you and your business. You need to set Max up to do the best for you. And that's what these plans are for. Okay, so that's going to be your answer machine detection plan. We then have custom data fetching. Okay, and we have a couple different fetching options here. So first off, custom data fetching is essentially, for those of you who know SQL, it's a very friendly SQL query. It's built so that people who can't write in that language can use it. So for example, I can't write in that, but I can use this. Very user-friendly and very straightforward. It's very logical going into it. So for example, if we have a look at this custom data fetching debt query, we have 3 rules set against it. And if we go into each rule, you can set these on any of the data that you have coming into Max. So if you import, in this case, debt amount, we can then pull that as a criteria to then fetch the data on. Because what custom data fetching is doing, it's a fairly new feature that allows you to extend your fetching strategy of the MaxContact system. So fetching is the act of going to grab leads. So when the dialer goes to grab some leads, you're grabbing it in a very custom order, the way you want it to be dialed, the way that you want to interact with these leads. That's completely up to you. So for example, before we have a further deep dive into this, one example could be you could filter by postal codes and work for particular areas of the week because you want to book appointments for that area. So there's no point dialing an area where you're not tackling it that week. Dial the active area that you're working in that week and book appointments for that area. You might be running a particular campaign for perhaps, let's say, a certain age of people, a certain age demographic. So you could come in here, as long as you've got that information, you could then target that certain age demographic first. So that way you're targeting the people that you want to target first, rather than letting the dialer dictate who and where it's fetching. Okay, it might be, as Kayleigh said at the beginning, for like debt collection. As you can see here, it could be for the contacts who have outstanding balances, or in this case, a certain amount of debt. We want to tackle those first. So we're tackling a certain debt amount, a certain debt salary, for example, greater than 30,000, and where that debt sits with, which client we're dialing for as well, if you're dialing for multiple clients. In terms of things like B2B or B2C, it could be that you're trying to reach out before a contract renewal ends. So we want to make sure that we're tackling in a particular date range or location. That is completely up to you. It's so customizable, it's unbelievable. Because anything you put into it, you can then get out of it. Again, furthering that reach and boosting your contacts, okay? Getting the most out of what you're paying for, yeah? So it's very, I'm not going to go into exactly how we use this today. That's not what this is for. We do have, of course, full videos, full articles on how to use every single button that you can see in front of you right now. But essentially, just going into one of these queries, I'm just going to open up the options that we've got in here, but you can see it's everything that we've imported into one of our tables, for example. So things like postcode, the list that it's in, the county, the name of the client. If you wanted to pull all of the Kayleighs in Manchester, I'm sure me and Kayleigh Tait would get a phone call, for example. It's completely up to you, okay? And once we've created these, you can make as many as you like as well. Once you've created these, you can then use that to combat your data. So we can then take these custom data fetching plans, head into our list once more, and we've got the custom data fetching plan. This currently has no plan. So any data that goes into this particular data set, into this list, will dial by default, which is just dial the spreadsheet in order from bottom to top. So if you don't organize your CSV before you put it into Max, it's just going to dial bottom to top and it doesn't care what order it's in, which again might work for you. That's absolutely fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But you might say, as I said, for one of the use cases that I gave, you want to tackle it in a particular order on a particular set of criteria. That's where we can then implement that custom data fetching plan, such as the debt plan. And now this list will dial according to this fetching plan. So it will go and fetch that data for you depending on how you put it in. Okay. So that, in very wide terms, is just the basic way. Again, starting off on the right foundations, getting it right from the beginning, is going to set you up for success. Even just having the correct dialing mode for the correct campaign will set your staff up for success, in turn setting you up for success. And then you can take it that one step further, and having the advanced settings in there are really just going to push your dialing above and beyond. It's just going to make it so much easier for you, and that reach can just go that little bit further, generating in revenue.
Amazing. Thanks, Kayleigh. So just a quick summary then. So Kayleigh's gone through the different dialing modes, which again, like she said, could be used for different campaigns, different organizations, different use cases. So absolutely, we encourage you to check that out. And if you need any help with any guides and things, they're all on knowledge base as well. And we'll include in our follow-up email some useful links. We went through answer machine detection and how customizable that in itself is. So if you've got high value leads that you do want to definitely leave an answer machine message, and that will drive your performance of your campaigns, then absolutely that's you're able to customize that. And then finally, custom data fetching, which is I think one of my favorite features and gold dust to anyone in a revenue generating team, but you can intelligently prioritize where your team are focused and the contacts that they're reaching out to. And yeah, like Kayleigh said, that is absolutely tailored to your needs as a business. And as you learn new things, understand your different target audiences, you can layer those in, and it's super easy to use as well. So thank you for that, Kayleigh. So everything there was really around maximizing every lead that your organization has, but also maximizing the time of your team as well, and how they're using the platform to your advantage as well. So Kayleigh, what other methods are there to enhance the contact strategy? What additional channels are worth considering? Are there any other enhancements to contact strategy that might be a little bit more advanced or people might not have used before?
Absolutely. So I think what we've just kind of covered there at the beginning is very much just the start and just the tip of the iceberg for what we can do. But we talked about a little bit about the setup. So if I just share my screen once more. And again, Kayleigh, can I just get a little nod that worked? Brilliant, thank you. Is, as Kayleigh's just said there, about your staff that are actually using this, because they're the ones that are interacting with your clients day in and day out, really, aren't they? We're making sure that they're set up for success, but also you're getting the most out of them that you can. So one thing I want to talk about a little bit in terms of sales is the data capture side of things. So we're going to talk a little bit about scripting, and then we're going to look at the different channels so we can get even more reach and more arms and more touch points with our clients. The more, the better. So first off, we're going to talk about keeping that data fresh so it doesn't go stale. So that way you can increase the longevity of a lead, because you might have paid a very good amount of it. You might have ran an advertisement or a web form, something like that, and it is gold dust, and we want to extend the life of those leads as much as we can. One way we can do that is by using scripting. It's in Max, it's already there for you, and having your staff members do a variety of data capture. So I've gone ahead and pulled up a lead. So then what we can do are use things like fill boxes, such as drop down, so we can go through as your staff members on the phone, they can fill out questionnaires, forms, things like that. So I'm just putting in some fake information there, and you can see that saving, and then we're updating that lead. So next time this client calls in, or we call this client, we already have this information on them. We're a bit more aware of their situation, which is only just going to help boost their your commitment to them and their confidence in you, that they're doing the good business with a good company, which is great all around. So one way we can do this is by extending that reach, or doing a bit of what I'm going to call aftercare. So once that sale has gone through, once that positive experience has happened, because again, it's not always a sale. It might be that an appointment was booked, a sale went through, an engineer's coming round to do something, whatever a success means to you. What do we do after that? Because we don't just want to go, okay, great, we've done it, move on. We want to make sure our customers are looked after and they're getting the best experience from you, because that just boosts your standing in their eyes. So one way I want to show this, I can just hear myself twice, bear with me, mute myself there, is using things like email and SMS. So these are singular one-way emails and one-way SMSs to the client. Now this could be a confirmation email that a payment has gone through, just confirmation of the conversation they've had with the staff member. It could be leaflets, information packets to continue the conversation. So they might not be interested right now, but we can follow up with a text message, we can follow up with an email to keep that conversation going and spread that across multiple channels. And this is available to you right now. And it is really cool. So I'm going to show you what that looks like. So what we have on our script, again, the MaxContact script, is some fill boxes, which 2 of them are already filled out on a separate page. But I can go ahead and fill in the date that the client's asked for. In this case, it's a contract, or sorry, an appointment. So I'm going to put that in for tomorrow. Put that in for when the client asks for it. The product, which is going to be a dialer. We then have the email address of the client, which I can go ahead and pop my email address in. Contact.com. Like so, your phone number for the client, and then finally the location. So I'm just going to pop in like Birmingham, for example. And you can see we have these all required. So the necessary bits of information that we need to send out a communication, you can make things that are required. They have to be filled in. This is then guiding your staff just very gently into the correct path. Again, to make sure we are sending these emails, we are sending these SMSs. And then all we do is hit the send email button, and then we hit the send SMS button. Now, I'm not going to bore you whilst we wait for those to come through. So if we just have a look at some I prepared earlier, a bit like Blue Peter, if I just share those for you. There we go. So this is when I've done this before, and I did receive this text message after I filled in all of my information. But you'll see the information is my name, which I captured, the date and the time and the location, the branch that we've put into the script, the product that I've purchased, and again, some follow-up aftercare if they have any questions, comments, concerns, that they can reach out to you, and you've told them where. So you're extending that branch to them. Again, we've got this with email. It's the same information that you've just seen me put in for Sarah Jane. I've even added in the name of the staff member that they spoke to in case they've forgotten, the date, the time, all of it, all the same information that we've just seen via text but now via email. And this is just a confirmation email, but again, this could just be information packets to keep the conversation going so that lead doesn't end. Again, just extending that longevity of leads, giving the client the best of you so they can obviously do business with you and are more inclined to come back and return because they've had a good experience with you. Let me come off of that, go back to the dialect. There you go. So those text messages have sent. And of course, I can't just flash my phone at you, hence why we prepared those screenshots from earlier. But doing something like data capture is invaluable. It's going to help keep those leads fresh for longer, or fresher for longer, rather than doing a couple of attempts and go, oh, well, they weren't really interested. Well, they weren't interested. Why not follow up with an email, follow up with an SMS, so then they can review that on their own time. It shows more professionalism and, again, giving them some sort of comfort that they are cared for after the interaction or the initial interaction via Max. It's finished as well. But this is all within Max. It's all available to you right now as we speak, if we're not already using it. One thing as well, I've preemptively not shared my screen, is something I just want to touch on really quickly, just to keep with that theme of getting the right calls to the right people at the right time, keeping those leads fresh, is outbound skill-based routing. Now, I'm not going to talk too much on this today, as we have had a full webinar, which I'm hoping some of you were on that one as well. That'd be really nice. But we do have that full webinar recorded for you as well, so we can follow up with that as well. But essentially, what outbound skill-based routing does, essentially, it connects the right leads to the right user based on their skills. So this improves your efficiency. It improves those conversation rates, your penetration rate, customer satisfaction even. You're making sure that the correct people are handling the correct leads. So essentially, when the leads enter the system, whether that's imported or API'd in, SFTP uploaded in, for those of you who use that method, they are then assigned a skill group. That skill group contains one or multiple skills depending on your personalized setup and what you want it to do. You can change these as well manually later on if you need to. But the platform essentially routes the calls to the most skilled agent that is available at the time to make sure you're getting the best person for the job. And why wouldn't you want that to happen? It can solve so many problems essentially by removing the need to split users and leads across multiple campaigns, because you're letting the leads that are appropriate for certain staff come to them. Okay, but like I say, just a little infographic there for you, but we do have a full webinar recorded which goes into much more detail than I'll be able to cover today, which we can provide afterwards. But I do just want to give a little nod to that because it is a fantastic feature that I do hope you all look into a little bit more, because it is, again, just furthering that reach as well. Back to you, Kayleigh.
Thanks, Kayleigh. Sounds like to me to you, doesn't it?
Yeah, a little bit. A little bit of Chuckle Brothers.
Thanks for that. Yeah, it was really great to see. I think outbound skills-based routing, we've got a full webinar, like we said. We'll pop the link in the email as well if you are interested. I'd say that does top the list of the top features from me as well. So how can you see all these things working? Like, what does the reporting, how can we optimize campaigns by using the data, the things that we're learning in the platform?
Absolutely. So in these stages that we've done, so we've got it set up pretty well from the beginning at this point, and we've then made sure our staff are a bit more comfortable and they're getting the most out of it as well, for you and for them. And now, again, it's your own aftercare. How do we see, like you say, how do we see this is working real time, historically? Can we see that if we do go ahead and make these changes, these fabulous changes that we've discussed today, how can we see that that's worked and it was worth doing those changes? Well, I'm going to show you. So again, one more time, share my screen. is we'll go through and have a look at some of the reports first. So we're going to use the MaxContact report viewer for this. Again, another page that I'm hoping we're all fairly familiar with. And we're just going to have a look at our standard campaigns. This isn't even dipping our toes into things like custom and system reports, which can give you even more granularity into the data that you're after. Our standard campaigns can do that just as well. So I'm going to have a look at some of the campaigns, for example. So one of them I want to pull up, oh, the Zoom thing's in the way, is for example, the result code summary. So if we run this report, and we'll have a little look at this, and if we just run that for, let's say, yesterday, and I'll just run it for one of our campaigns, and we hit preview, it's going to pull up that information for me. There we go. So this report here is the campaign, lead status, and outcome of that call. So you can see what campaign it was dialed from, what kind of outcomes are we getting, and what were those specific outcomes. So if we look at here, we've got the name of the campaign called Robo. The lead status is person, so that's where we got through to people. And what kind of outcomes were they? Well, they were sales and vulnerable customers. And what happened with those? How many calls was that out of the total number of calls that we did that day? Which is 34% of our total calls were sales, which is great. And we can then deep dive into that a little bit more of, do we consider them successful? Were they unique leads or repeated leads? Is this on a second or third attempt, or is this on a first attempt that we're getting these? How quickly are we handling them? Productivity-wise, are my staff making sure that they're being productive with their time when interacting with these leads? So that's a nice top-down, quite high-level report looking down on this data. If we come back to our report viewer, again, I'm just going to pull up another one down here in our voice. Things like list performance. So this one's quite large. Again, I'll run this one for us. But if we implement things like answer machine detection and the custom data fetching, outbound skill-based routing that we've spoke about, this is going to impact our lists, of course. We hope for the better. And again, if I just run this for us, and I come down here, I'm going to run it for the same campaign on the same day. You're going to see that we have a little bit of data in here. And there we go. So we ran one list on this campaign, and we can see essentially how that list performed. How many calls we had, live calls, how many people we actually spoke to out of all of those leads, how many of them were human beings. We also have the very important DMC. So DMC, for those who don't know, are your decision maker contacts. They're the golden ticket. They're the ones you do want to be speaking to. They're the ones that can make decisions on the accounts, decisions to make appointments. So that is really important to see. Yeah, well, we may have spoke to 1,000. Well, 75% of them were DMCs. That's a great day. That's a really, really good day. We can keep an eye on those drops, make sure they're not becoming too much, and if we need to perform an action on those drops, things like that. Again, if we use things like Undroppable and the increase, decrease to predictive, that again, those two safety nets in place, we should be seeing something like this where we have none. We have no drops at all. And of course, we come down towards the end for those outcomes. So it's very similar to the report I've just shown you, but with a lot more detail in there. So it's not just outcomes and what that looked like and how many answer machines we interacted with and how many the system picked up. We've also got a lot of the success, the call data itself, and a little bit of productivity towards the end. So that's your campaigns, lists, and then I just want to do one more, if we're all okay with that, for the user level of things. So one I want to show, if anyone on here has done any training with me, this is the one report that I always pull up. So take that what you will, but I do like this report. Again, it's another absolutely huge report. I'm going to run it for the same date and campaign as before. But this report is going to pull up agent behavior and agent statistics. I'm just going to zoom in a little bit there. There we go. So this again is 3 levels. So it's campaign, team, and user. So again, we're getting 3 levels, 3 granular levels of data in here. So we've got the campaign, the team, and then the user down here. This is showing you what your staff are doing day to day. You can see it all. So the time spent making and taking these phone calls, inbound, outbound, dispositioning, actually speaking with your clients, you can see all of that in here, broken down essentially by the second. You can see absolutely all of it. We can see if it's weighted between certain users. If someone's bringing up that average, we can absolutely see that. But it is one of my favorites, one of these reports, as it's covering absolutely everything, and we can make sure that your staff are comfortable, and that they are using the correct modes, the correct dialing types, and that they are comfortable with it. Because you'll see that it reflected very clearly in this report, and this report is actually a twofer. If you scroll down, you've got the exact same report, taking out those averages and those weighted averages if that's not something you care for. You can see that nice and clearly in there. Now, I've only pulled up 2 or 3 reports there, didn't I? For historical data. Now, you can run reports on the day. However, if you are to run reports on the day, they are, for those who don't know, up to, or can be up to, an hour out of date, or 59 minutes out of date, as the roll-up happens every hour on the hour. So the reports that you're looking at here, they are live to the hour on the day, which is absolutely fine. That is why we have things like dashboards and wallboards, which are live to the second, the immediate second. So you can see some of these stats are changing as I'm talking about it. So I've gone ahead and we've got one here. Now, dashboards, wallboards, if you're not using them, do get to know them, do get familiar with them, because they're a fantastic bit of kit. Like I say, you can see these stats are changing as I'm talking because they are live to the second. And you can pull lots of different levels on a singular board, so you can make it a one-stop shop for all of your needs. If you just need a quick look at something to go away and see where we're at, we can see it on numerous different levels, different campaigns on one screen, different teams, users, lists, all of the above, all together in one place, nice and clear, nice and open. And you can brand it, as you can see here. I've gone ahead and branded this to MaxContact with our branding, but of course you can do this yourself with a dashboard or a wallboard, so you can stick that up on a TV in the office for everybody to see. In there as well, but you can get a good look at the statistics both historically and live, so there's no confusion on if you are having a good day, if we need to change anything on the spot, if we need to pivot and change direction and evolve as you grow. Absolutely fine, but of course you need to be made aware of it, and you need to know that you need to make these changes, or that something's working great, something might need to be improved, using things like reporting to check your historical data, and using dashboards, wallboards to check live current day data. They're going to be your best tools. They're going to be your best friends for finding that information in here. And again, we do have full articles and guides and everything you could need to use both. In terms of reporting, one little thing I will say on there, if you haven't used these reports before, or not by much, the best thing I can say is go get stuck in. Go run a couple of reports, go have a look through them. I guarantee there's something for everybody, and you will find what you need just in our standard section. You don't, like I say, you don't have to tip your toes into custom and system. It's great if you do, but you'll absolutely find what you're after within our standard. There is something for everybody, and you guys will know best what you need to get out of this product, and you'll find it in here. Just 10-15 minutes, go in, run a couple of reports, even just have a look at the pictures. We have fake data in our sample images in there, so even just having a look at the pictures and seeing if that's something in there that you'd like as well. You can go ahead in there and find those. And if you've not had a dabble with dashboards and wallboards before, we do give you some demo ones straight away, right off the bat, out of the box. We give you dashboards, wallboards, pre-built, pre-made. So all you might have to do is maybe change a color, put a logo on there, save your changes, and use straight out of the bat. So we're doing everything that we can to give you a good head start, a good springboard into using these. And then as you get more comfortable, you can tweak and change or make one completely from scratch. But you do already have some pre-made dashboard wallboards waiting for you, that are sitting and waiting to be used. Okay.
Thanks, Kayleigh.
You're welcome.
Even I want to go and set a dashboard up now.
It's a good game of Tetris.
It is. Yeah, and I suppose the customizable element of it really does give you the flexibility to visualize data in different ways. Everyone takes data in differently, and telling a
Absolutely.
story through data is really important. So great stuff. We've got a couple of questions, and we are out of time, but I'll squeeze these two in. Just one about outbound skills-based routing. And on the skill groups. So what are some examples of the different skill groups that you could set up? Is it around like the proficiency of someone? Is it anything
It
and
is,
everything?
yeah, it is really typically up to you. It's how you want to action it. It could be as simple as, well, these are sales calls, these are general inquiry calls. So we wouldn't want someone who's maybe customer service and advisor orientated to be making sales calls because they're not salesmen. So we'd then split that into two different skills, and we'd make sure our salesmen are making sales calls, our customer service advisors are doing general inquiries, accountants to accountants, making sure that if we can put it all in one big pot, in one list or a couple of lists, put it under one campaign. It saves you splitting it, like I mentioned earlier, but that the correct calls are being routed to the correct advisors to get the best out of those leads. But it can be on anything, could be on anything you want.
Okay,
But just
good
as
to
an
know.
example.
Yeah, amazing. Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
And just one final one. I'll squeeze this one in.
Yeah.
Can the platform support other channels other than SMS and email that you
Absolutely.
showed?
So the MaxContact portal can obviously support the singular email and SMS, but we do also have two-way email and SMS, which is part of our digital side of the product, which is two-way email, SMS. We have web chat, WhatsApp, and Facebook as well. So you can really get those arms out there and reach up to your clients in multiple different ways. But yes, we do. We do have multiple different channels for you to reach out, not just SMS and email and voice.
Good. Okay, thank you. Okay, great. So we'll end there. So we'll send a follow-up email with all the helpful links that we've talked about throughout this webinar. We'll also share the recording. So thank you very much, Kayleigh, for taking
You're
us through that.
welcome.
If you do have any questions or come unstuck with anything, then please reach out to us via the email or obviously through account management or through our support team. And if you are also thinking about that, actually, you could perhaps do with maybe a bit of a mini health check or some advice around your contact strategy within your business, then absolutely reach out to us. We can obviously got years and years of experience working with lots of different types of businesses and contact centers as well. Mainly focused around that outbound sales, outbound debt collection. So heaps of experience designing and developing and learning from contact strategies. So feel free to reach out via the emails and yeah, we'll follow up. So thank you very much for everyone who came. It was lovely to see you.
Well,
Thanks
thank
very
you,
much.
Kayleigh.